All right, so we're diving into a really fascinating topic today.
Yeah.
You've sent over a bunch of material about people who've not just faced some pretty major challenges, but who've actually come out even stronger on the other side.
Yeah.
We've got listicles, we've got in-depth articles, even some personal stories in here.
It's a really interesting mix.
It is.
Yeah.
And it seems like you're interested in going beyond just a surface level understanding of, what resilience is.
Definitely.
You want to get into what makes these people tick.
Exactly.
Like, what were the exact hurdles they had to overcome, and how did they manage to not just cope, but really achieve some pretty incredible things?
Well, to me, what's fascinating is how a lot of these stories really kind of make you question if adversity can actually be a catalyst for growth.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's not just about bouncing back. It's about using those tough experiences to fuel something even greater.
So it's almost like resilience isn't just about getting back to normal. It's about reaching a whole new level because of what you've gone through.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so inspiring about these stories.
Totally.
Yeah.
Let's start with some of the physical challenges, because I'm already feeling pumped just thinking about these stories.
All right, well, one that always comes to mind is Nick Vujicic.
Oh, yeah.
Born without limbs.
Wow.
You'd think just everyday life would be a challenge enough, right?
Right.
But this guy surfs, swims, plays golf.
No way.
And on top of all that, he's a world-famous motivational speaker.
That is incredible. It really makes you think about what limitations even are.
Right.
Is it really about what our bodies can or can't do, or is it more about our mindset?
Well, Bethany Hamilton's story really kind of highlights that mindset aspect, I think.
Okay.
Losing an arm to a shark attack at 13
Oh my gosh.
would make most people pretty hesitant to even get back in the water.
For sure.
But she was back on her surfboard within weeks,
Really?
went pro,
Yeah.
and now she's an advocate for shark conservation.
Wow, there's something so powerful about that,
It is.
Not letting something so traumatic completely define you.
Absolutely.
She could have just let that experience hold her back, but instead she turned it into fuel for this whole new chapter in her life.
It's amazing.
It really is. It makes you wonder if that kind of trauma can actually trigger what psychologists call post-traumatic growth.
It's a real phenomenon, and you see it in a lot of these stories.
Oh, interesting.
Wilma Rudolph, for example, she contracted polio as a child
Oh.
and had to wear a leg brace.
I didn't know that.
But she went on to win 3 Olympic gold medals.
You're kidding.
That's not just bouncing back. That's exceeding expectations that most people wouldn't even dream of setting for themselves.
That's true. It makes you think about the role of perseverance in all this.
Uh-huh.
Is it something you're born with, or can it be developed through facing these kinds of challenges? Like, was Wilma just incredibly determined from the get-go, or did overcoming polio actually forge that determination in her?
It's a good question. I'd argue that adversity often reveals hidden strengths that we might not even know we have.
Okay, yeah.
Take Scotty Smiley, for example. He became the first blind active duty officer in the U.S. Army.
Wow.
After losing his sight in Iraq.
That's incredible.
It's not just physical adaptation, it's a complete mental and emotional transformation.
How do you even begin to process that kind of loss
All right.
and find the strength to keep going? I mean,
It's hard to imagine.
did he rely on any specific techniques, or was it more about sheer willpower?
Well, he talks a lot about asking the right questions, reframing his situation,
Oh,
focusing on what he could still control. It's fascinating how the human mind can adapt,
yeah.
even to the most extreme circumstances. And sometimes even a temporary change can have a pretty profound impact.
Oh, you're thinking of Bertie LaRue, right?
Exactly.
The horse riding accident that left him temporarily blind. And his blindness wasn't permanent,
Right.
but it completely shifted his perspective.
It really did.
Yeah.
He went from taking his sight for granted
Yeah.
to truly appreciating the beauty of the world around him.
Makes you wonder how much we miss when we're not really paying attention. And if maybe a shock to the system can actually help us see things more clearly.
That's an interesting thought.
It seems like so many of these physical challenges force people to really confront their limitations, reevaluate their priorities,
Yeah,
and ultimately discover a whole new sense of purpose.
I think you're right.
But what about the people who faced challenges that were more social or societal? I mean, those hurdles aren't always as visible, but they can be just as daunting to overcome, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's almost like facing those societal barriers requires a different kind of resilience altogether.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just about adapting physically, it's about navigating systems and challenging those really deeply ingrained expectations.
Yeah, and sometimes it's about fighting for your right to even exist in those spaces.
That's a good point.
Malala Yousafzai's story is a powerful example of that.
Oh, definitely.
Advocating for girls' education should be a basic human right.
It should.
But she was shot by the Taliban.
It's unbelievable.
Simply for speaking up.
Her story is a stark reminder that knowledge can be a threat to those in power.
It is.
It makes you really question those structures that try to limit access to education, especially for girls.
And then you have someone like Nelson Mandela.
Oh, wow.
Who spent 27 years in prison.
I can't even imagine.
For fighting against apartheid in South Africa.
27 years.
It's hard to fathom the kind of resilience it takes.
It is.
To not only endure that kind of injustice.
Right.
But to emerge as a leader who promotes forgiveness and reconciliation.
That's what I find so remarkable about his story,
Yeah.
He didn't let that experience make him bitter.
He didn't.
It feels like he actually transcended the anger and the hatred.
It does.
And that's what allowed him to lead such a powerful movement for change.
It's incredible. It speaks to a level of emotional intelligence that's just off the charts.
Yeah, for sure. It makes you wonder if prison broke him or if it forced him to confront his own humanity in a way that ultimately made him stronger.
It's a fascinating question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of places, there's still that possibility for growth.
I agree.
And sometimes those incredibly difficult experiences can give birth to something truly extraordinary.
We see that in J.K. Rowling's story, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Going from a struggling single mother on welfare to creating this global phenomenon that is Harry Potter.
It's an amazing journey.
It is. It really challenged that idea that creativity can only flourish, in comfort and stability.
Right.
She faced financial hardship, single parenthood, countless rejections from publishers.
Wow.
Yet she persevered. And it seems like her own struggles infused her writing with this depth and relatability that really resonated with millions of readers.
There's this idea that art often emerges from pain. And her story definitely seems to support that. It's almost like she channeled her own experiences of overcoming adversity into the characters and the storylines, creating this world where even in the face of darkness, there's always hope.
I think that's part of why it's resonated with so many people.
Yeah, and it's not just about the creative output either.
Right.
It's about the impact her success has had on so many readers.
Absolutely.
Particularly young people who saw themselves reflected in her characters.
It's a powerful reminder that our stories
Yeah.
have this ability to empower others, even when we might not realize it.
Speaking of empowering others, Oprah Winfrey's story is incredible.
Oh, it is.
I mean, going from a childhood marked by poverty, abuse, and neglect
A lot.
to becoming a media mogul and philanthropist.
It's amazing.
It's truly remarkable. What stands out to me is how she used her platform to amplify the voices of others.
Yes.
Especially those who had been marginalized or silenced.
She really did.
Yeah.
It's like she took her own experiences of being overlooked and unheard
Right.
and turned that into this driving force
Wow.
for creating space for other people's stories.
That's a really insightful observation.
Thank you.
It's not just about achieving success for yourself. It's about using that success to lift others up. It's almost like a ripple effect where one person's resilience can spark this wave of positive change that impacts so many others.
A chain reaction.
And sometimes those ripples start in the most unexpected places.
They do.
Like take Dana, for example. She's this young girl in Kenya who contracted HIV after being raped.
It's a heartbreaking story.
It really is. But it also highlights the incredible resilience of the human spirit.
Yeah, especially when you consider that she found support and purpose through the DREAMS program.
It shows how important community and access to resources really are for overcoming trauma.
Absolutely.
And finding your voice.
It's a good reminder that we're not meant to go through these challenges alone.
That's so true.
And sometimes the most powerful act of resilience is simply reaching out for help and allowing ourselves to be supported.
So we've seen examples of resilience in the face of physical challenges and societal barriers.
Yeah.
But what about those internal battles?
Oh, yeah.
The inner demons, as they say.
Right.
That can sometimes be the hardest to overcome.
That's where we get into the realm of mental and emotional resilience.
Okay.
And one of the most prominent examples of that is Jim Carrey.
Oh, yeah.
He achieved comedic superstardom.
He did.
But he's also been very open about his struggles with depression.
It challenges that assumption that success automatically equals happiness.
It really does.
And it highlights how important mental health awareness is.
Yeah.
Especially for those who might appear to have it all on the surface.
You never know what someone's going through.
You really don't. His willingness to be vulnerable about his struggles has helped to destigmatize mental health issues.
Oh, for sure.
And that's huge.
It is.
It shows that even those who seem to have it all figured out still face these internal battles.
Right.
And that seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness.
It's not giving up. It's taking care of yourself.
Exactly. It's like acknowledging those inner demons.
Right.
It takes a certain level of self-awareness and courage.
I think you're right.
And sometimes confronting those demons can actually lead to a deeper sense of purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
Like take James, for example.
Okay.
He went from addiction and homelessness to becoming a counselor helping others with substance abuse.
Wow, that's amazing. It's a beautiful example of turning pain into purpose.
It is.
He took those incredibly challenging experiences and used them as fuel for his passion.
It's powerful.
It is. It's a powerful reminder that our greatest weaknesses can often become our greatest strengths.
But how do these individuals actually make that shift?
Yeah.
What are those common threads, the mindsets, the strategies that allow them to not just survive, but thrive?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And while there's no one-size-fits-all answer,
right,
I think we can definitely see some recurring themes here.
Yeah, it feels like we've been talking about this idea of post-traumatic growth quite a bit.
We have.
It's not just about bouncing back to where you were before the challenge. It's about actually using that experience to kind of propel yourself forward in a new way.
It's a fascinating concept, isn't it?
It is.
That something so inherently negative as adversity can actually become this catalyst for such profound personal transformation.
Yeah.
You know, I always think of it like kintsugi.
Okay.
It's the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
So the cracks and the imperfections actually become part of the object's history. You know, they make it even more beautiful and valuable.
I love that analogy because it's like those scars are proof of the object's strength and resilience.
Exactly. And it seems like that's a common thread we see with a lot of these individuals.
It does.
They don't try to hide their struggles. They actually embrace them.
Right.
You know, those experiences become part of their identity, a source of wisdom.
Right.
And often a driving force for helping others.
And that's where I think the real power of resilience lies.
I agree.
It's not just about individual strength, it's about the ripple effect it creates.
Exactly.
These people don't just overcome their own challenges. They use those experiences to inspire and empower others.
It's true. Their stories give us permission to believe in our own capacity for resilience, you know, even when we're facing these seemingly insurmountable obstacles.
It's like they're showing us it can be done.
Yeah.
But how do we do it? I mean, is this something we can actually cultivate? Can we train ourselves to be more resilient?
Well, based on what we've seen in these stories, I'd say it starts with awareness.
Okay.
Acknowledging that adversity is an inevitable part of life.
Right.
That setbacks are going to happen, and that challenges, while they're difficult, can also be opportunities for growth.
So it's not about avoiding challenges altogether.
No.
It's about shifting our perspective to see them as potential opportunities.
Yeah. It's about moving from fear and avoidance to curiosity and willingness to learn from those tough experiences.
It's easier said than done, though.
Oh, it is.
I think that's the thing.
It's practiced.
Like, how do we actually make that mental shift?
Well, I think a good starting point is to reflect on our own experiences.
Oh, okay.
Think about a time when you faced a challenge, big or small. How did you handle it?
Right.
What did you learn from it? What strengths did you discover within yourself?
So instead of focusing on what went wrong, we can try to focus on what went right.
Right. What if we celebrated those small victories?
Yeah.
And used them as fuel to keep going?
That's a good point. And another thing that seems to help is seeking inspiration from others.
Absolutely.
Hearing stories like the ones we've talked about today reminds us that we're not alone, you know?
It does.
That other people have overcome incredible odds and that we have that potential for resilience within us too.
It's like those stories become a roadmap, showing us that it's possible to not just survive, but thrive in the face of adversity.
And it's not about waiting for some major life crisis to test our resilience.
Right.
It's about building that capacity day by day through those small acts of courage and perseverance and self-compassion.
Exactly. The more we practice, the stronger that resilience muscle becomes.
So as we build our own resilience, we become better equipped to handle our own challenges.
Of course.
But we also become a source of strength for others.
That's right. It's like that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats.
I like that.
When we invest in our own resilience, we're also contributing to a more resilient community, a more resilient world.
It's been a really eye-opening journey exploring these stories, and I think you've given us a lot to think about.
I'm glad to hear that.
As we each face our own challenges, big or small, let's remember the lessons we've learned from these incredible individuals.
I agree.
Let's embrace the power of resilience, not just in ourselves, but in our communities.
Because ultimately, it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving.
Well said. And who knows, maybe someday our own stories of overcoming will inspire others to find their strength and resilience too.
I hope so.